know how I'm all about training, and especially through all the life stages, which is why we're doing quite a lot of work, aren't we, Mr. Binks, now that you're nearly 12? Well, we're jumping on Zoom now to speak to Caroline Alupo, who is the co-founder of the Petli.App, talking about how this app can really help you get the best out of your dog. I'm Anna Webb. Welcome to A Dog's Life. Caroline Alupo, thanks so much for coming back on A Dog's Life.
Thanks for having me. Great to be back.
No, it really is, because I love the work that you've done on post-traumatic stress disorder in dogs. And I'm really interested to find out what came first, the study or seeing dogs with post-traumatic stress disorder encouraged you more to investigate dog behavior?
Yeah, first of all, I met these dogs when I was working and I saw it. And the study came afterwards, once I'd gathered quite a lot of experience. So yeah, that's the order of it.
Yeah. And how has it affected your training? Or when you talk to other dog trainers, do they also concur with you that this is something that is a real syndrome?
Yeah, absolutely. And more the more I've been around lecturing about this topic, of course. And I think it's given me a very important proactive perspective that I really want to like vaccinate these dogs against insecurities, frights, and aggression at a very early age. So it changed, the way I had puppy courses. And I think it's super important to be proactive because this can actually happen to any dog at any time.
And that's very much what Petli.App is about, isn't it, Caroline? It's about, explaining to owners that training isn't just once a week at dog club, if you're lucky to do that with your dog. It is about training every single day and just in short increments, which is something I really love about the Petli.App.
Yeah, I don't think we need to make it more difficult than that, really. Just have these micro training sessions on a daily basis. And training is one thing, but then it's the like overall understanding and knowledge of dogs and what makes them tick, what are their needs, what does stress them, and what can cause PTSD or what can just make a dog angry or scared. And the more we understand dogs in general and breed specifics and dog personalities, the better we can like tailor make the way we care for them and train them and deal with them and what situation we put them in and what we don't put them in. So I think it's super important. So Petly is about those snackable bites of trainings, but also the dog knowledge. Because it's really hard if you're a first novice dog owner, if you've had many dogs, just to get all that information at once and trying to digest it is super hard. You need to be fed it bit by bit and really with a good timing of where your dog is in his or her life.
No, I really agree, because of course, bringing in a puppy at 8 weeks is so different to bringing in, say, a rescue that might be normally about 2. Dogs tend to be abandoned at around 18 months, or that used to be the sort of the age when people have literally lost the will to live with their dog, or they realize they've put so much work in sometimes and they're still not getting that connection, or their lives might change and dogs end up in rescue around that time, which is quite a tricky time for people to take dogs on, would you say, Caroline?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because they're full of hormones and they're teenagers, just like human teenager, but in a territorial, hunting carnivore animal that we put on a leash and invited into our home. So it's tricky. I just had a lecture actually last night with the dog breeders and what we call kennels here in Sweden. So I spoke a lot about how this proactive kind of treatment and training can start in that with that little puppy litter at the breeders that early. And this is all to like help dog owners get the most confident puppy they could, really. That's the point of it all. To raise happy and confident dogs.
Yeah, no, totally. So much can be done. I had close friends that have bred litters, and I've helped them with sound CDs because, we here, do you have bonfire night in Sweden? When all the
Yeah,
fireworks, right? So
yeah.
we've got that loads. And last night it was Diwali and they were going off again,
Mm.
big bangs. Of course, noise sensitivity. Do you think Caroline, that noise sensitivity is something dogs are born with, or is it learned? And really, can playing sounds like car alarms, babies crying, alarm clocks, you name it, on a CD or downloading it on an app, when the puppies are just weaning, they're getting onto their solid food and they're all round a little bowl, hopefully eating nice raw food to wean to. And then, the breeders playing these sounds as they're eating. Do you think that can really make a difference, for example?
Yeah, I think it can both make a difference or trigger a fright. So it all depends on. And when dealing with a big litter or even a small litter, you have to set the level of the CD or the volume to the most sensitive individual. So you can't just look at the mother dog or one of the puppies. You have to look at all of them and really make that volume be as low
Mm.
as it's fine for the most sensitive individual. And I think that the risk is if you overexpose them, or if these sounds are played too loud, you have a one trial learning. The first time the dog hears this noise, the feelings are overwhelming and they remember it as something that stressed them, instead of having that low exposure and actually desensitizing them over time. And I think of, in regards of like people rehoming their dogs when they are about 18 months old, I think a lot of reason for that is not that the dog really the dog may have become completely unruly at that age because they're an adolescent dog, but I think the fears and the frights and the stress, often it starts when they're puppies, but they don't really act upon that stress and that fear in a very offensive way. They're quite calm and quiet about it. But when those hormones kicks in, that's when it all, becomes a hassle for everybody, really. So it starts, my opinion is that it often starts much earlier. We just see the symptoms more clearly then.
No, it's so interesting. And that does really relate to how so many dogs are bought now, over the internet. Certainly here in England, that's the main way. That's what everyone does now. They buy their dog online. And
Mm.
many of these dogs, these puppies being sold, are bred in puppy farms, obviously with no thought of anything like desensitization to anything, and bred in awful conditions, we all know, and it's just awful. So that is also another big problem, I think, and why, again, the Petli.App can help people so much from the get-go. When you bring your puppy in, whether it is a puppy farm dog or a perfectly bred, amazing kennel club registered pedigree, they can all have little chink in their immune systems and in their minds, really. Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke about this last night with the breeders, that when their work ends, that's where our begins. That's when Petli takes over and helps these puppies and puppy owners to boost that relationship, get to know each other and understand what's of important, what's not of important, what should I really spend my time and focus on, and what
Mm.
training should I start straight away, and what can I deal with later, and just getting those tidbits of training and advice along the way. So yeah, absolutely, that is what we're there for, to be that guide all along the way. And Petli's not a flat platform. It's not just articles and trainings and courses. There's also a team of dog expert behind that that are there answering questions, and this is done on like a daily basis. People ask questions in the community or under a training or an article, and we're there to answer and help. Or they just say, oh, yesterday my dog did ABC, why, or what should I do, and we can coach them and help them. Or they film their training and go, is this good or bad? What can I change? What can I make better? And they get help that way. So it's a very dynamic platform, aimed to be that, that guide, that dog coach in your pocket 24/7.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For me, yes, it's like I'm so, I don't know, not very modern. So I find the filming aspect is awkward for me, but that's reassuring to hear that you don't have to film everything and you can just message, I guess,
Mm.
directly. Would the emails come through to you and then you distribute the question to dog trainer A, B, and C, or is it you, Caroline, that answers?
What happens is that I see that there's been a question asked in the app, and I go and answer it in the app. So it's like a communication thread in the app, really. So that's most of the questions are answered that way. And if I need, it's mostly me. And if I need the Petli vet or the Petli physiotherapist to come in, or another dog trainer who I think is better at this, then I'll connect those people on. So that, and a lot of people, they say that just scrolling around in the app and reading other people's questions and the answers they're given, and how they get back a week later and said, oh my God, it solved it now. Just that is a learning tool as well, just to kind of have like a sneak peek in at what everybody else has asked. And if you want like a private session, or you want to ask a question but not open for everybody to see, people often email us and we can have that discussion, or send them a tailor-made plan with the help of the trainings that we have in Petli. If they're finding it tricky to understand, where do I start? My dog's got a pretty complex problem. What shall I start with? And yeah, so we're there to help in any way the user really feels is comfortable.
Oh, I think that's so great. And it's interesting they can email direct as well. Because I often find in doing my consults, I will blow people's minds going in, because I find that a lot of people now get frustrated with their dogs, because they might say to me, look, I'm asking him just not to do that. Why is he still doing it? Or I've tried to train him this, and often it's simply because messages are getting lost in translation. And I do think sometimes people assume, because dogs are so good at reading our facial expressions and smelling our moods, I can see why people do believe dogs understand what they're telling them. Yeah, I had a really good day today. My meeting went really well. Dog's wagging the tail, looking up, thinking, oh, mum's really happy, so we're going to play a game. I can see how it happens. But in fact, you've got to switch that right round and change the pet parent's way of thinking, so to really understand what drives and motivates the dog. And it certainly isn't a lot of speech, or and explain why eye contact in certain situations won't be helping you. But the fun bits of the video that we've done and practiced before is the focus work, and explain why that's quite a big chunk of the app. And I love the way you actually go, now, before you get out of your front door, let's play a quick game, get your dog coming towards you and reward, and then go out through the front door, rather than that you've got your dog's focus before you leave the door.
So it's all about teamwork, really, and getting that into everyday life with your dog. So every situation you're in, there's a possibility for the dog to earn treats and rewards, or praise, or cuddles. It doesn't have to be dog candy. It could be something else, but just to get that teamwork in everyday life. And some people, they focus on sit and down, and they forget, it's a whole training just to get out the door with your dog thinking, we're doing this together. Not I'll just bolt out and drag you along and chase after the neighbor's cat, but at that actual doorstep to think, oh, let's do this together, you and me, in unison. So we got a lot of trainings like that. And we also have a lot of trainings where there can be conflict, like get down or go on your bed, and things that people have a tendency to nag and really, get on their dog's cases about. So we make that into fun tricks and easy to grasp training. So you as a dog parent actually learn that, okay, I need to teach my dog these cues, all these behaviors, no matter if it's walk nicely on a leash or recall or whatever it is. It's just tricks and games, really.
Exactly. No, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's making everything fun. People say, well, surely if I ask my dog to go and sit in his dog bed, that's a punishment. And I'm like, well, no, not if you do it right. It's an absolute game. And they know the game is stay in there until you ask them to come out, which again is another game. No, what I love as well, though, is the app's kind of philosophy of through all the years, because training and diet and everything needs to adapt as your dog suddenly find they can't run and go far like they used to for an hour of, wonderful walking out on a big field. They might be slower. They might stop a bit. You might notice they're stiffening up. You might notice their top line might not be totally flat any longer. So you build in all of these aspects into the Petli.App. So for me, it's way more than just training. It's about a whole lifestyle solution.
Absolutely. And we have this lifelong journey kind of theme that, it starts pre-dog. Before you even get a dog, you get information and knowledge about what to think of before even getting this dog in. And then that first few weeks with your puppy, what's of importance. there and then. And then there's a puppy course that leads on to an adolescent course and an adult course, and finally a senior course. And there's also material about losing a dog and the grief and the sorrow. So we kind of go the whole circle around. And just like you say that, Anna, it's about training and difficult levels of training, but it's also about the diet and the dog's needs and the dog's communication and the hormones and how that affects a dog in a social situation with other dogs or with people, or even their perspective on prey or cattle or anything else. You know, they change, especially from being a puppy to an adult. It's a big change that happens in a very short time. And the more we know, the more we can really run with it, instead of like going, what happened to my sweet puppy? Where did he go? He's a monster now. He wants to bite horses, and you know, all these things that happen. And then once they become adults, that's quite a long time in a dog's life, but things keep happening. And if you want your senior dog to stay active and sharp and, you know, minimize risk for dementia or arthrosis and pain in the body, that's when the dog is an adult. That's when we start to help the dog to have as a long life as possible, you know.
Well, no, I agree, because I think, you know, we start to age at about 40. I think the thing is, that's when you, if you haven't done face cream, you better get on it, you know, apparently. And dogs do start to age between 2 and 3. So it's, you know, so that's when everything needs to be thinking about the whole dog. Absolutely.
Yeah, I met a client yesterday, and he was throwing a lot of frisbees and sticks and balls to his dog, and I said, "Yeah, that's great fun for now, but you're really wearing him out. And when he gets older, he's going to have problems in his body." This was a hunting dog, so we kind of looked at other ways to play that game, but without it being running backwards and forwards, full of adrenaline, and just things like that. He was like, "God, I never thought about it. He's 18 months and he loves this." And I said, "Yeah, but very soon, he will be like a dog in a 40-year-old human body, and that knee will start to ache, and those, you know, quarters will become a problem, and then when he's a senior, he might not be very long lived due to this, you know." And it's all about knowledge, you know, and not only getting the information, you shouldn't do this, because that's a bit of a flatline situation, but what can I do instead?
Exactly. So what would you suggest? I would suggest using the nose a lot more for that dog, and using the same balls, but hiding them, and then beginning the actual real scent work training, which is how the army and the police, I think, in the UK do it. They all use the tennis ball. You know, I know tennis balls are contentious, but for me, they're the best ball. They really are. Would you agree, Caroline, on that?
Yeah, absolutely. They're great fun. I mean, it's a classical dog toy, isn't it? Dogs just love them. And I think, you know, just like you said there, Anna, I started with a search. So to go and find it instead of just rushing after. And because this dog had become a bit of an addiction for him, so we started like every other ball or frisbee was thrown and every other one was hidden. And then we changed that ratio. So it was more search, hide and seek, rather than just running straight backwards and forwards. But what we also started to do, because this is a super clever, intelligent dog, so we started teaching him search left, search right. So he got to start, you know, really figuring out where did we want him to go when he searched, and not just run off into the forest and just scatter around, but to really find what he was looking for with the help of his handler in a more precise way. So we did that, and we actually kept the frisbee. We just minimized the frisbee game, but what we did was that if the guy was stood at 6 o'clock, the dog was stood at 10 o'clock, you know, facing each other like that. And he got to catch the frisbee if it was tossed low and just crossed his path. So he had to calculate, you know, where the speed of this frisbee, where is this going to cross my path, and when can I run and grab it? So we used that, and as a super reward that he could get now and again, but the rest was like hide and seek game, more or less.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. But to see dogs, that some people listening might think, but that's not going to wear my dog out. But you see, to the contrary, I say, because the satisfaction of using their noses and say, you know, I can imagine in a beautiful Swedish forest, the wonderful smells and distractions from the tennis ball, you know, are a lot. So to keep that focus, that takes, you know, discipline and training and and that great sense of yay when you've got it. And that's when everyone jumps up and goes, yay, for the positive marker. Something actually my producer was asking me the other day was, Anna, what does a marker mean? And someone asked me on the Heath, he said, was Billy, Mike's Jack Russell, Parsons Russell, Jack Russell, marker trained? So explain what that means and why that's so important to get the hang of from the get-go with your dog.
Are you talking about a reward marker now, like a clicker?
Yeah, like a reward marker, like a thumb up. I do thumbs up a lot, because, well, I've trained quite a few deaf bull terriers. I mean, they're mostly born partially deaf anyway. But, you know, when you are working on a little joke, didn't mean it, Prudence, really. But of course, doing a clear thumb up, it helps a lot of people, because a lot of people are very clumsy with the clicker. And as a result, in my experience, you know, capturing the right moment with a clicker is key, and that takes practice and time. And I think a lot of people are a bit intimidated sometimes by they've got the clicker, they've got the treat, they've got the dog. It's like, oh, it's all a bit complicated. But just to do a thumb up, you're never going to forget it because it's always on your hand as well.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I always use the marker, a reward marker, and without it, how on earth is the dog supposed to be able to lock that memory or whatever he or she was doing it at the exact time when he was to get a reward? And a good marker really spares us some time. It gives us time to get out that ball or get out that treat. We don't have to be that precise. We just have to mark exactly what will be rewarded. And I'm the same, you know. I have clickers everywhere, but I keep forgetting them and they're too much to handle. So I click with my tongue, or I put my foot to the ground. So there's like a tap with a foot on the ground, so they listen to that. But it could be a word, as long as the word, and this I think is something that a lot of dog parents need to think about, because there's praise, which is like good boy, it's a keep going signal, but that's not the marker. If you're training, say your dog is looking at you and you start backing away and your dog follows you and looks at you, you can praise, good boy, keep going, I love that. And once, you know, you get an intensity in that behavior and the dog is like, yeah, I'm really good at following you around and staring at you, that's when you want to mark and go, yes, and give them the treat. And that yes, or that click, needs to be really short and precise. So the dog locks whatever he or she is doing in his memory and remembers that, okay, that's when I heard that word. This is what I need to repeat. Because that praise, it's so long, so it covers so many behaviors. We want something really snappy and short.
Yes, another bugbear of mine is overpraise. You know, when the dog's done a sit and it's too much, lots of touch, that then makes the dog jump up. So you've lost the sit. So this kind of clear mythology, really, and an understanding of what you're doing and what you're aiming to achieve. You know, just going for a dog walk, that's a training session, isn't it?
Super important. I think as well, you know, just looking at ABC, antecedent, behavior, and consequence. I mean, the antecedent, what happens before the dog comes when you recall, or sits when you ask to sit, that should be pretty clinical and kind of boring. It should just be a cue. And then when the dog actually does come when you call, that's when the consequence needs to have a lot of energy and but the praise and the cuddle, it needs to be something that makes the dog really happy, and that the dog enjoys it and is not overwhelmed by your energy. And then you need to repeat it, but you need to stay clear of too much. In Swedish, we call it avleda. It's like when you kind of bribe a dog into doing something, or you entice them to do something, and there's a lot of energy before the dog has actually done the behavior. Because then we're rewarding the dog for being unattentive or for running off. Say your dog runs off when you're out for a walk, and you bring the toy out, or the squeaky toy, or, you know, whatever treats you have in your pocket, then you're actually rewarding the dog for running away. So you need to keep in mind, you know, that you have to set up your training for success and make sure it's kind of clear, and there's a cue, and then you guide the dog to do the correct thing, and afterwards there's a party, and not beforehand.
Yes, exactly. You mark it and then there's the party. Yeah, no, it's so important. That's so important. So, Caroline, where would you see Petli moving forwards? For you, is the app finished, or is there always room to add more and more sessions and so on?
Yeah, I mean, we'll never be finished, we'll never be happy and content. We'll keep working forever to make this better. And the fun thing with Petly is that we're very in close contact with the users. So we're actually building it with them. Whatever they need, whatever they want, that's what we want to build. So we're not just sat there making this app, making it all up on our own, but we're actually talking a lot to the people in the app and seeing what they want. And at the moment, we've just released challenges, which is like a fun, like friendly fun competitions in the community, and it could be trainings, or it could be just a photo challenge, or it could be anything else really, and you can win these trophies, and some of the challenges have actual prizes to them. So that's our latest thing. And moving on, I'm really looking forward to creating really snackable small bites, like mini courses or mini lessons that you could just digest in a day, and it isn't a big commitment kind of thing. So I want to develop that, and I think when we move forward, we're going to keep getting things from our users, what they need, what they're looking for in the app, and that's what we'll be building really.
Yeah, no, it sounds brilliant. I mean, one idea, which I'm sure you do in the puppy one, is, the three most important things you must do when you bring your puppy home on the first day, and the three most important things you must not do with
Yes,
your puppy on the first day.
absolutely. I mean, we have those checklists, and like these are the things you want to get right, and this is what you want to avoid. And because we have that knowledge of what can cause stress in dogs, and what can disrupt that balance of harmony, and what can cause PTSD, so that's in there all the time, like watch out for this and do A instead of B. Hand holding, it's all about being that hand holder and coach along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And encouraging lots of training with the puppy,
Mm.
on a tiny little light collar and lead, get them walking to heel up and down your hallway, but before you go outdoors when, I don't know, what is the vaccination schedule like in Sweden? Breeders are obliged by law here to give the 8-week shot, and then we can do 10 weeks or 12 weeks for the second vaccination. I don't know what it's like in Sweden.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the 8-week, 12-week, and then we have a year. And then for the kennel cough, we're supposed to do every year, but it's not mandatory. It's
Mm,
optional.
mm,
So, and
mm.
it's the same with the puppy vaccinations. It's all optional really here.
Is
So
it really?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. It's not mandatory, although people do think it is. I'm sure in Sweden you do titer tests quite regularly where you can test the immunity of your dog,
Mm.
with a blood test. 99.9% of the time, puppies are, immune from their puppy shots for life. And that's something you can monitor and make sure your dog isn't over vaccinated, as that can affect behavior.
Hmm.
I know for a fact, well, certainly the rabies shot can or has been known to cause hypersensitivity,
Mm. Mm.
which is difficult set of behaviors that can certainly affect a dog's concentration, that's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So just going back there to your sort of three things that you would suggest somebody does with their puppy on the first day when they get them home, what would they be, Caroline?
Keep calm. I think people are so super excited, and so am I. Getting a new puppy
Yes.
home, it's a huge thing. But mostly, what I often do myself is that I open the door. I make sure it's a calm environment, so all the neighbors or friends or family aren't there. It's me, my kids, and I just open the door and let the dog explore. And I'm just stood there, really, just observing it all, just being calm and being in place, and letting the dog take a look around on his own terms. And then normally I just squat down on the floor and just wait for the dog to come to me for cuddles or for bonding. And I just make sure there's time for that. So nothing's rushed. I don't have to rush off and make dinner. I don't have to. This is a huge moment for us as people, but also for the puppy, of course. So that's super important, just having that time to be present 100%. And then to kind of uh, introduce whoever the dog is to be introduced to very slowly and gradually, if it's cats or other dogs in the home, so it's not you know, a big chaos, that first moment. Remember that one trial learning and the effect of that, you know, keep it calm, keep it chill. And then kind of has some routines quickly, you know, feeding time and going outdoors, and you know, and if the dog has accidents, pees or poops indoors, starts biting at carpet, just, it's not the end of the world. Just take it easy, you know. Don't
I
have to
know.
solve that today at once. Just roll away those mats, put those shoes on top of your hat shelf instead, and
Exactly.
just, you know, take it easy. We have this like puppy proof your home, puppy proof your garden. Do that beforehand, so you yourself can be calm in this situation. And if that puppy does something that you're unsure of how to handle, don't start taking a lot of initiatives and trying things out. You know, just reach out within Petli and ask for help, and we'll help. We'll tell you what to do.
That's so interesting. But what about, creating a bit of distance as well from the puppy, to try and prevent and preempt any separation anxieties?
For me, that comes a lot later. I think there's a stress, and there's a stress in Sweden as well from the breeders. Like, you've got to start training your dog to be home alone. But when they come, I mean, they toddle over that doorstep when they're 8 weeks. They're babies, you know. Leaving them alone is not prior. It's not top of your list. And if you need to go to work the next day, you shouldn't have got a dog, to be quite honest, because that's not going to happen. You can't just shut that door and come back 6 hours later, 8 hours later. And so I think that there's no stress with that. You want your dog to feel at home. You want to make sure that if you're out strolling around, the dog knows where your house is. And if there's a sound, or if the dog gets a bit worried, they should come to you, and secondly, go towards your house. That's, you know, the den. That's them saying, I feel safe here, I feel at home. And not until that is done, that process has been done, and the dog feels that way, it's time to start home alone training. And I think that it's so different for different individuals and breeds. I've had quite a bit of hunting dogs, and they're super independent. They're like, yeah, go away, I don't and then I've got my working dogs, like German Shepherd and Rottweiler mixes, and they're the opposite. They're like, it's you and me for life. I'll be by your side no matter
Yes.
what. And
Don't leave me. I
no,
won't leave you.
exactly, yeah. And they're bred for that, and they need a different kind of home alone training that's much more subtle. So it all depends on the dog, but again, it's about that low exposure, super low exposure, never going above the threshold for stress, never uh, excluding the dog so he or she stands there and whines or starts howling. And, you know, that's not home alone training. That's creating separation anxiety. So I think people, they're a bit of a hurry to get this done, but they need to get the time to do it and do it right. And I mean, we're there in Petli, we're there to help. We have these step-by-step trainings for home alone training, and the first two big trainings are not about leaving your dog. No, the whole first three trainings are not about leaving your dog home alone and shutting the door. I mean, there's so much done before you even get to that, you know, door being shut.
No, that's so brilliant, because it is that help that you need at that time, because, people can't take their dogs, probably same in Sweden, until the second jab. So puppies are 3 months, which is quite a lot can happen, and their brain development in that time is huge compared to a human's. A lot can be done at home to make sure your dog does this first puppy class, in a field or in a hall really, really well. So absolutely, I think Petli is really brilliant and really good as well. Certainly here in the UK, the biggest growth in dog ownership is with the millennial generation, and I think lower than the Gen Z, I think, are bringing dogs into their life. So they're very technology savvy, and apps are like second nature to this generation. So it's forward thinking on that respect, as well as just being something that you can have in your pocket. You can take your smartphone with you to the park, maybe take a break, go sit on a bench, or if it's summer, just, find a shady spot, get the app out and think, right, okay, let's do some focus work out here. Because to get your dog's attention when you're in a park or wherever is obviously going to be a lot harder than it is in your kitchen. And that's, everything about contextualizing, isn't it, Caroline?
Yeah, absolutely. We see a lot of young users, but we also see like the middle-aged, like people that get Petli, and some they just haven't got time to get to puppy class, you know, or they have a dog that isn't going to develop and learn at a puppy class, who just gets stressed. And the other week I spoke to it was this lovely woman. She was 80 years old. She couldn't get the app going, but she wanted to use Petli, and at the end she called me up, and I kind of like guided her through downloading, creating an account and everything. And then she was finally in, and she was like, this is great, because I've got this puppy now, and I can't get on the bus and go to a puppy class, and I can't live with a dog that won't behave, you know. And she started using Petli, and it was super cool, because she was like, I don't use apps, I haven't got a clue how to use an app, but this one I want to try. So that was such a happy moment for us at Petli.
Oh, that's great. But the feedback that you've got from people, you know, on the website and all the reviews, I mean, they do speak a million words, don't they?
Yeah, we love to read our reviews, even people that have feedback and you know, advice on how we can better. But we do get a lot of praise for the app, and that it's so easy to use. And a lot of people say that it's got this depth. It's not just about tricks and games or leash work. You know, you can read these articles and get such a deeper understanding of canines and different breeds. And that's because they are ethologists writing this material. It's not your average, you know, dog expert or dog trainer. So I think that really makes us super happy to hear these people who come in and thought it was something and leave going like, wow, I really understand my dog now.
Yeah, and it is that interactivity, I think, of the app for me, you know, that you can ask. And I love the challenges thing, and you get your rosette. So you're getting the positive reinforcement as well.
Yeah.
You know, the pet parent, they're getting their rosettes, they're getting their clicks, their thumb
Yeah.
up, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
which helps motivate the human. And that's what needs to happen, really. So I think it's a splendid idea, I really do. So, well, Caroline, look, thank you so much for today. I just love it. I love talking about dog training so much. Any other things that you'd like to bring up? You know, the tagline for Petli, your dog's best friend. And I just love that. So simple, but that's what it is, because to get this bond, see, I think everyone gets a dog and they want their dog to be lassie, or, you know, they want to mirror a dog that they knew as a child, and they want that connection. But that's not necessarily just going to come. I mean, this takes work, as you said earlier, earning their rewards. We need to earn their respect, I think, as well.
Yeah, and we need to see them for the sentient beings they are, with personality. So we need to look into those eyes and understand this is a person with four legs. You know, this is a real individual. It's not just a dog, or it's not just a German Shepherd or a Labrador. It's so much more than that. It's a person, you know, and we need to understand them on that level and get to know their personality.
Mm.
And that's when that connection happens. It's all about, you know, in those moments of just complete and utter presence together. So that is what Petli is all about, to help people reach those moments and to see their dog as their partner, their best friend, their, you know, yeah. And I think we've always said, you know, we've walked alongside dogs for 30 odd thousand years, you know, and they've always been our best friend. And at Petli we say, come on, now it's time for us to become theirs. And we all think we are, and we want to be, but we need so much knowledge to actually be able to be out of the dog's perspective, because it's not just us thinking, yeah, I'm my dog's best friend, but the dog needs to feel that. And how does a dog feel that? And what do you need to do to fill those shoes, you know? And that's what we want to do. We want to give dog parents those tools to
Mm.
fill those shoes, so they get a dog that looks at them and like, you're super cool, I love you. You know, let's take on the world.
Yeah, and it's just one look, you know. I mean, one of the things I love to train is head up, so that at any moment you've got a head up, so your dog's looking at you, and you've got that moment where, you know, you can just pause, think, okay, there's a cyclist over there, so let's not go straight on, we're going left. And
Yeah.
it's really smooth. It's really smooth. No, Petli's really inspired me. I've been out really working on Prudence's follow, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, really, really. Yeah, because that's one of her foibles, really. She's so scent driven. That big nose, she will follow a scent into the road. You know, I have to really, and she's become very stubborn on it. And it's just her instinct. It's because I've trained her to use her nose. So sometimes the training things can mean that other behaviors get compromised. Like, I trained Prudence to find British truffles.
Mm.
And after that, she just now goes everywhere trying to find a truffle. Even there won't be one in the park, I can tell you that. She's really driven by her nose now, which is my fault. I feel it's my fault, but I mean, it's good on the one hand, but her recall had become pretty awful, I've got to say, because she'd be like, no, I'm still finding the truffle type mode in her brains.
I've got a solution.
Go on, please share.
It's all about pre-max principle, right? I love to pre-mac anything I can pre-mac. And so she's highly motivated to find the truffles, right?
Yeah.
And that has made her less motivated to come when you call her. So we want to connect these things. It's all about grandma's old rules, like eat your vegetables and you get your dessert.
Yes,
so
yes.
I would start recalling to get her to give her the cue to search for the truffles. And then once she's done that for a while, just go in again, recall, and when she comes, give her the okay to search for the truffles again.
Okay.
And just play these two motivational forces against each other
Mm-hmm.
until she's like, oh my God, I hope she'll recall me because I might get to, go and search for truffles.
Or find my tennis ball.
Yeah,
so the thing is
yeah.
to go out perhaps with 2 tennis balls, actually. So quickly hide one when she's off sniffing, and then get her attention, get the follow to run, and then go find. And that will be a really nice dynamic exercise, wouldn't it? Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, see, so that's the hot top tip. Love that, Caroline. Thank you. Thank
No
you.
problem.
Oh, Caroline, gosh, we could talk for ages and ages. And oh gosh, we must do another one. I just love all this. So I just urge everyone to go to the App Store and download the Petli.App, as it will help. Christmas is coming up. It's a very hectic, very stressful time for all dogs and their humans. So to perfect some cues, like in your bed, is going to be such a useful one, isn't it, Caroline, for Christmas? Get the dog out of the way in a good way, so they're not going to be tripped over. They're not going to eat anything by accident that they shouldn't be eating, and they're not going to be stressed out.
No, absolutely. And we got quite a lot of big content regarding Christmas, and we got a really fun, nice article about Christmas out of a dog's perspective and how to really desensitize your dog to certain things that can trigger aggression and fright during Christmas. So yeah, head into Google Play or App Store and download Petli.
Hurrah. And that's great. That's brilliant about Christmas. I'm going to go and check that out. That sounds really good fun, because to look at Christmas from your dog's point of view, absolutely, your dog must be thinking the humans have gone mad.
Yes. Yes.
Because the amount of stress we all have, the Christmas presents, the wrapping paper, buying all the food, all this cortisol is just wafting around the home, and the dogs are just inhaling it all, thinking everyone is so freaked out. So I've obviously got to be freaked out. And then strangers come in, and it is an opportunity, as you say, to bite. And that's something particularly at the moment in the UK, but obviously anywhere, we don't want any dog bites. Dog bites don't need to happen, do they, Caroline?
No, we want to prevent that, and that's all about awareness and knowledge, and to see that dog perspective. I mean, we drag in this tree from the forest and we put Red Bulls in it. I mean, out of a dog's perspective, that's madness. Am I supposed to pee on it or take all the balls down? And we set fire to things, all over the house. And we have all this food all of a sudden. For the resource guarding dogs, that's just like madness. Why have they stocked up with this much food? And this bloke comes in wearing boots and a mask and start asking for the kids. I mean, having the dog perspective on that madness, we understand why a dog could bite in that situation. And that situation could be any, now we're talking about Christmas, but it could be any situation that's just overwhelming, but completely understandable if we always have, the dog lens on and see it out of the dog's perspective.
And of course, a lot of dogs, because of the pandemic, haven't been desensitized to lots of visitors. And that takes a lot of work, to create boundaries with visitors, because of course you have to train the visitors.
Yeah.
As more than the dog, really, so they don't get overexcited, or and then the visitor might be a bit overwhelmed by an excited bull terrier jumping up. So you want to preempt it happening in the first place and keep everything calm. But a lot of people, as we touched on earlier, I think, expect dogs to be ta-da, and rushing to greet and kisses, and people think it's fun for about a minute, and then it's like, oh, actually, can you stop your dog? But it's been trained and the dog expects to do this behavior. It all needs just to be turned around. That's all, with rules and clear markers.
Yeah. And I think, having that understanding of dogs as this, territorial carnivore, really, and hunting dog, hunting with hunting drives, and what that, gives us in the form of this dog in front of us that's supposed to be able to act perfectly around people and other dogs and other animals. And just looking at different breeds, like say the difference between a Labrador and a Golden Retriever and a pit bull or a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd, for that sense, they all have different integrity, and they can be triggered differently for different things. And to expect a dog to just be a happy-go-lucky dog and not have respect for those genes, I think that's the dangerous part. When you think like this dog, it should be okay if somebody comes close or leans over or goes hello. One dog might just wag its tail and start jumping. Another might actually go in for a bite, and that's completely normal for that dog breed. And I think that kind of knowledge is so important as well. So as a dog owner, we know what we actually bought, and if it doesn't matter if it's a mixed breed or a purebred, we need to know what we've got and their perspective, because that will change a lot depending on the breed.
Absolutely. And then that goes back to education and right to the beginning, where I always say people must choose the right breed for their lifestyle, their accommodation, and their experience. Because all dogs are individuals, but some dogs are more difficult, I would say, than others, and if you've not got a garden to do training with your German Shepherd, then maybe a German Shepherd isn't the breed for you. Simple, but it doesn't. There's over 200 breeds registered with the UK Kennel Club. I don't know about the Swedish Kennel Club. So there's so much choice, but also the mixes, of course, but it's important to know the different mix so that you can see the different personalities, the cockapoo being the classic example, and so many end up in rescue, cockapoos.
I see so many dogs that have exhibited what we call problematic behavior or unruly behavior, or acted bad or bitten. And when I look at the scenario, I'm like, well, that was kind of called for, because I think it's more seldom actually that the dog is out of order or has done something wrong out of the dog's perspective. I think it's the circumstances often that is the problem, and people that put dogs in situations that they shouldn't be in at all.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think most dog bites and tragic incidents, they can all be avoided, or really with a little bit more understanding, as you say. So, that's something that is really being discussed at the moment in the UK, with the XL bully ban that's all going on at the moment. Oh, gosh. Well, Caroline, I can't wait to look at those tips for Christmas and urge everybody else to do the same. And, of course, to download the app. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us again today and highlighting a bit more about the Petli.App, because I really feel it's a resource that is at everybody's fingertips.
Thank you for having me. It was a class.
That's our show, Mr. Binks. What did you think? Yes, indeed. Lots of good advice there, especially the micro training. We love a bit of that. What's that? Yes, you're right. It is Woof of the Week. Never underestimate how important it is to train your dog every day, but little and often, and always quit on and up. Well, I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go on, rate and review the show wherever you tune into your podcasts. Thanks again, of course, to Caroline Alupo for joining us today and highlighting everything about the Petli.App. All the links are in the show notes. Thanks, of course, to Mike Hansen for all the music and production as ever. Find out more about Mike at Podpeople UK. And for me, find out more at Anna Webb Dogs. What's that, Mr. Binks? Yes, we will be back in your feed next Sunday. So, if you haven't already, go on, subscribe. It's free. And that way, you'll never miss another show. And it means you can dip into our Patreon service if you like and get some special recordings and other bits and pieces. Bye for now.